Hello everyone, slash tonight, slash this evening. I recognize that I have a nice, how would I say this, aura. I don't know why my camera isn't focusing on me, but it's not. But that's okay, you see less of my face. And that's always a good thing. Although it's focusing really nicely on this plant here, so yeah. By the way, hello everyone. Oh, sorry, I just bursted out your eardrums. Jeff, it's been a while, and foppish dilettante, and Gaius, thank you for joining, and all that jazz. So I have not done much for my channel recently. I understand. I'm trying my hardest. One of my goals for this year is to put at least 3 videos out in a rough couple of months, as you can probably tell from this topic of tonight. However, a couple other things, nice things. I want to introduce you to my new little man. This is Kairu. He is a children's python. He is a T-positive albino, which means that it's a type of albinism, but it doesn't take away all of the blacks. So he's got a special vibe to him. He's also he's 66% likely to have marbled, for children's python, marble morph, which is essentially a children's python with a white background, and it looks like they've cracked pepper on top of it. It's gorgeous. That's one of my dream snakes. Oh, an ad. Anyway, I think he's almost in blue, or is about to go into blue. It's really hard to tell with his coloring, because his coloring makes him look like he's in blue the whole time. But he feels like it, and his eyes are a little bit cloudy, so I'm just going to stick him back. And I will just give me 2.5 seconds. I will put you back on some I'll be back in a tick. Okay. Also, to replace one pet with the other one, as you know, this is Panda. Oh, it's very bright. She's had a rough couple of days. She had to have some teeth removed. So one of the things with cats is that as they get older, there is a chance that their bodies start reabsorbing their teeth. There is nothing we can do to prevent it. You can have the best teeth ever and they'll still happen. So she had to get 5 teeth removed on Friday. So yeah, she's not happy. Hang on, I might just move this a little bit more in my face. There you go. All right, that looks a bit better. Okay, so all right, so that's a little bit of a couple of things. So cat's -8 teeth actually. She's already lost 2 because of that teeth removal thing that happens. And so, right, as I said to you, and as the subject of this fantastic stream, is that last week, Brisbane had a cyclone. Oh, hi Math Pig, how you going? Yeah, Brisbane had a cyclone. Its name was Cyclone Alfred. It was supposed to be Cyclone Anthony, but our Prime Minister is Anthony Albanese, so they didn't name the cyclone that for fairly obvious reasons. I'm hoping everyone can hear me, by the way. Let me know if my voice is okay and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so we had Alfred. I put a couple of shorts up about it. Initially, it was pretty. It was going to hit as a category 2, and that was scary because it was the first ever. First ever cyclone I've ever been in, but it also was the first cyclone to hit Brisbane in like 50 years, since 1974 was the last time. And it was scary because most of us hadn't even gone through that. A lot of people, guys, it's just a category 2, we'll be fine. But the thing with Brisbane is that our infrastructure was not set up for a category, for any type of cyclone, because they don't hit down here, basically. But not even just that, like even though it eventually hit as a tropical low rather than any cyclone, it still dumped like a year's worth of rain in 48 hours. The Gold Coast was smashed. As I said in one of my shorts, that one of my friends lost power. Her house was flooded because of torrential rain, not because she was flooded out, but there was flash flooding, a lot of just disaster, huge amounts of erosion of the beaches. People were without power for days, and it was like the highest level of people without power in Queensland's history. So it was pretty impressive. Like over 4 million people were affected. Jeff says, are cyclones categorized in the same as hurricanes? I do believe so, actually. I think they do. I haven't looked into that, but it was pretty bad. So, and one of the things that did kind of irritate me, especially in like comments made by people who live in cyclone and hurricane style vulnerable areas, is like, oh my god, it's a category 2, what are you guys worried about? And well, that was the reason why. So that was an issue that I had. So, and also at the same time, and I find it's just an attitude that I hate in a general sense of the word, is, oh, I've been through worse, what are you complaining about? Well, the thing is, people drown in 2 inches of water and people drown in the ocean. It doesn't matter. They're still drowned. You might have gone through worse, but people are still going to go through worse. And rather than going, oh, I've got, like a measuring contest, why don't you just give people respect and love and telling people how you survived it, what you should expect, that sort of thing. Don't get, and I still technically haven't, and it was horrifying. Okay, so one of the problems that we were having is that we were told like a week in advance, hey, there's a cyclone coming, and they said, oh, hey Ola, how you going? And they said, and it's basically what the Cyclone Alfred did was it came down the east side of off the eastern coast of Australia, came down, and then it basically did a west hand 90-degree turn heading straight for Brisbane, which is where I live. And so they were saying it will hit on Thursday. And then on Monday, it was like, well, it'll hit on Thursday. On Tuesday, they were saying it'll hit on Friday morning. On Wednesday, they were saying it'll hit something like Friday evening, early Saturday morning. And they were also changing the categories. There was, for a couple of hours, about 10 hours, the BOM, or the Bureau of Meteorology, was saying that it could actually hit as its category 3. But they didn't say it could. They said, look, we're not ruling it out, but it's extraordinarily unlikely. And so basically it came across, and then all of a sudden just kind of stalled off the ocean, in the ocean, hit really hard by it. And it just kind of sat there. It was kind of like cradled in different pockets of air, and just wouldn't move. And it didn't move for a very long time. And then it eventually just came and hit the coast as a tropical low. Hey, what the beck? How you going? And so what was happening is we started off Thursday was going to hit, and it hit in the late hours of Saturday afternoon, evening, night kind of thing. I remember waking up that night with the wind howling and everything. So obviously people don't understand how science works. People don't understand how the weather works. I am not a meteorologist. Can't even say the word. And I'm not going to tell you what I know is the fact of the matter. Go and obviously do your own research with good sources and everything like that. And so what we were constantly getting were updates, and people were getting kind of shitty. It's like, come on, hurry up and hit, which was the worst thing. The day before it hit, it was like beautiful weather, like the sun was out, it was gorgeous. Anyway, so that was another that we were having, is that information kept changing, but that's the nature of cyclones, is there's so much confounding variables in it. Yeah. I just have to say that it's probably my internet, Beck, that there's a whole heap of buffering. My internet has not been good since the cyclone. I go off mobile phone internet, and it pretty much, guys, my internet's been kind of shitty since Alfred came and did his thing. Anyway, so I'm going to introduce Chris Uhlmann. Chris Uhlmann, I did about 3 seconds of reading his Wikipedia page, because he is generally a waste of space, and you don't really need to know too much about him. He was originally an Australian, now a talking head at Murdoch Media. Basically he writes opinion pieces on things that he doesn't understand for Murdoch Media, which is kind of like basically Murdoch Media's way of functioning, really. Hi Ian, how you going? So Ian says, hey there Navadia, I'm at Goodness, so I went through Alfred as discussed on Blue Sky, but that was interesting. Yeah. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go to the next. And so you see less of my face, and hopefully that'll make me a little tiny bit more in focus when you see less of me. So, commentary by Chris Uhlmann, who is a man who doesn't understand the world. Doomsayers push climate of fear as Alfred hits. No surprises here when I tell you that Chris Uhlmann is a Chris Uhlmann is a can you see that? I know no guesses that he is. I know no guesses that he is a climate change denier. Guys, I hate to break this to you, but the internet is wrong when they say that there is no climate change. Climate change is a thing. I can't remember what the latest 9.8% of climate scientists think that climate change is happening due to human activity. And in every statistical study, you're always going to get those couple of percentage of people who will say that they're wrong. But yeah, no. Climate change is a thing. It's real. Even since I was a kid, I've noticed a major change in the weather since I was a child. And so yeah, Chris Uhlmann, he's older than I am, and he should remember. But no, what's the saying? You cannot convince somebody out of something if their paycheck relies on it. Okay, all right. So doomsayers push a climate of fear as Alfred hits. The prophets of an impending climate collapse are cashing in on the Brisbane cyclone. Do they believe that weaponizing lies for a noble cause is justified? It is not. Very, very funny, Murdoch media. So, remind me again, how's your position on trans people, on masking against COVID, on vaccines against diseases? You know, I mean, I could just open up a 5-minute broadcast on Sky News, which is Murdoch media, and spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours debunking everything they say. So, do they believe that weaponizing lies for a noble cause is justified? It is not. Stop throwing stones in a glass house, Senor Uhlmann. Even before the storm hit, the distortions began. With Cyclone Alfred bearing down in southern Queensland, most people's thoughts turned to hoping the worst of it might be averted, that the storm might weaken, that by miracle it might miss major population centres, that the loss of life, the injuries, the destruction somehow might be limited. Well, yeah, that's what we all hope for when it comes to a natural disaster. But the Climate Council saw a business opportunity, another chance to terrify people into believing this cyclone was a creature of climate change. Well, okay, so yes, it was. I know that this is precedented. We have had cyclones in the past hit Brisbane, and there have been multiple cyclones that have gone down in the past 50 years, gone down but not hitting Brisbane, but just staying off the coast, so coming down further south. But they're becoming more and more common. Hey, Singham! They are becoming more and more common, and they are going to become more common. This cyclone is a creature of climate change, but it's also, but we can't just say it's only because of climate change, because as I said, there has been precedent for cyclones to hit Australia. And that's the thing with climate change. You can't say climate change is responsible for this, is this percentage responsible for this natural disaster. You can't say that. And the reason why you can't say it is because it's all very, very complicated. So, you know, you being in a room, for example, warms up the room because you are hot. But if you take into account lights, the lighting, and the material you're standing on, and how much wind, airflow is going through the place, and blah 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 blah, you can't say I heated up the room by so many variables. But the fact of the matter is, you just simply by being in that room means that you have warmed up that room. So it's all very complicated. And this is my very basic understanding of climate change. And I'm sure if some people who know more about it can hop into the chat and slap me over the back of the head for saying what I'm saying. But I'm pretty sure what I'm saying is accurate. But yes, Climate Council is correct. This cyclone is a creature of climate change. The council issued a media talent alert offering a menu of experts keen to link the storm to global warming, even though the release itself noted a warmer world means fewer but more destructive cyclones. Yes. Fewer doesn't mean not in existence. Um, Ian says, my brother and I are frequently disabling my 86-year-old Sky News access. Murdoch is dangerous. Murdoch, I genuinely believe, is the reason why Trump got into the presidency in the first place, let alone the second time around. Murdoch Media, again, like I was saying earlier, very, very complicated. There's a whole heap of other reasons why, but I just have to say, Murdoch Media, in my opinion, is the greatest threat to civilization. And I genuinely believe that. Hey, Godless Scummer, how you going, Jeff? All right, so the release, as I said, the release itself noted warms fewer but more destructive cyclones. Yes, fewer does not mean no destructive cyclones, you absolute nincompoop. That's right, there have been fewer cyclones making landfall in decades according to all the best research. Yeah, like tell me how that tell me how that contradicts what you were saying. It is detailed in the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Report, Climate Change 2021. Say that again. The physical science basis. On page 1586, it says, tropical cyclone landfall frequency over Australia shows a decreasing trend in eastern Australia since the 1800s, as well as in other parts of Australia since 1982. A paleoclimate proxy reconstruction shows that recent levels of tropical cyclone interactions along parts of Australia in the past 500 to 1500 years. So, this is something that I read. There was an ABC article talking about climate change. And so what's happening is start seeing is less lows, fewer lows in hitting basically the breadbasket of Australia. So where I live, most of the reason why we live on, the country lives on the east coast of Australia is because it's very fertile. And the reason why it's fertile is that there is the great dividing range. Extinct volcanoes go up the east coast of Australia. And they kind of like stop water coming in and going further inland. They kind of like capture the rain. And Mount Warning, what we know as Mount Warning, which is actually known in the Bundjalung language as Wombat, is called cloud catcher or rain catcher, because that's what it did. It literally this giant peak, and it would just stop rains from going further west into beyond Wollumban, and so that it's stupidly fertile. So with extinct volcanic soil and lots of rain, huge amounts of forestation, very, very fertile land, beautiful area of the country. But the thing is, if we don't have as much tropical lows or rain coming in, we can't farm, we can't produce food. So yeah, it's kind of scary. So surely this bit is good news, but what are the fears of more destructive cyclones? Here the Climate Council appears to be on solid ground because it quotes from the 2024 State of the Environment report, a joint effort by the Bureau of Meteorology and the CSIRO. Fewer tropical cyclones, but with higher intensity may occur through high rates and higher sea level, the report says on page 3. But roll forward to page 13 of the same report under the heading Tropical Cyclones, and it says, the trend in cyclone intensity in the Australian region is harder to quantify than cyclone frequency due to uncertainties in estimating the intensity of individual cyclones and the relatively small number of these intense cyclones. What are we to make a report co-authored by two of the most respected scientific bodies in Australia that is so internally inconsistent? So, you absolute galah. Here is how we can make of this report. There's not enough data. I know. Shocking. So it's harder to quantify than the trend in cyclone intensity in the Australian region is harder to quantify than cyclone frequencies due to uncertainties in estimating the intensity of individual cyclones and the relatively small number of intense cyclones. As I was saying earlier, cyclones are incredibly hard to predict. They can start from look like they're going to hit on Thursday morning as a Category 2 and hit Saturday night as a tropical low. So that was just the one. Due to Gaius is saying, there may be less making landfall in Australia proper, but there are more cyclones. It's the same argument with hurricanes forming in the Atlantic, and it's dumb as hell. They still also do devastating amount of damage to any of the islands they cross over when they do, but God forbid they mention that shit. Yeah, I agree. Cyclone Alfred hit quite a few populated islands on the way down, but no, we didn't hear about that. We just heard about Brisbane. And one of the things about Cyclone Alfred that was so scary is that where it was going to hit north, like northern suburbs of Brisbane. Hang on, have I disconnected? Just checking if I'm still on. Hang on, I'm just checking if it looks like I might have disconnected. Just checking if I'm sorry about this. I'm just double checking if I'm just seeing if I'm still going. Sorry about this. All right, I'm just going to keep going. Are you still there? Are we still live? Are we still here? Can someone say something? Still going. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that. All right. I just said that it was disconnected. I was like, oh gosh. All right. Still going-ish. Sorry about it. As I said, I use mobile phone and it's been shite since Alfred. Okay. Can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, so what hello? All right, I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, so basically what this same report saying due to uncertainties in estimating intensity of individual cyclones and relatively small number of the intense cyclones just means that they don't have enough data, you absolute nincompoop. That's all it's saying. You in the video that I'm currently working on, I mentioned that N values, which is your number of so yeah, that's why it's harder to quantify, because we just don't have the data. And the more time that goes, the more we'll be able to estimate the intensity of individual cyclones. You absolute silly moo. I'm trying hard not to swear, by the way. It's very, very difficult. I published an article in Cyclones. Here it was more precise. There is a projected increase in tropical cyclone peak intensity on average. We also expect to see an increase of proportion of tropical cyclones that reach the more intense categories, category 4 or 5. However, there is large uncertainty in these projections due to challenges associated with modelling tropical cyclone physics in coarse resolution climate models. I see nothing wrong with that. Large uncertainty in these projections. Like, it's hard. This stuff is hard. Weather works in not. It's basically weather just works in a very chaotic way, and you know the saying butterfly flaps its wings, and there's in the Amazon there's a cyclone in Japan kind of thing. It's so complicated. There's a joke I heard once where that someone asked, I don't know if this is true, but it might not be true because of they're talking about Albert Einstein, but it's true for anybody who actually does fluid mechanics. Like if when you die and you go to heaven, what are you going to ask God? The scientific method. This man does not think climate change is real. Just reminding you on that one. Yes, they are qualified by a large uncertainty. It's climate. And one of the things that people like to point out, that climate change models are inaccurate and stuff, is like, no, that's actually a lie. Climate change models have actually been fairly accurate. And one of the things I will say, like everyone's saying, oh, you know, the bomb was saying that, you know, changed its mind all the time, and it was not accurate at all. I was like, actually, no. Cyclone Alfred did exactly what they said it was going to do. It came down the coast, did a hard turn to the west, hit in the northern suburbs of Brisbane. The worst of the flooding was in the south of the cell, which is what they said. Worst of the damage was in the south of the cell, which is what they said was going to happen. The finer details, such as when it was going to hit and what it was going to hit as, kept changing because congratulations, you're learning about weather. Yeah, Jeff says weather works in mysterious ways. That it does. And Guy says, if I recall correctly, it took decades for hurricane modelling to get even to a point where it was decent enough to project within a reasonable level. Yeah, it's complicated. All right. So again, this guy's asking about empirical observations, which is bedrock with scientific model, which, again, this guy does not believe in climate change. Returning to the IPCC report on page 1583, it says, there is low confidence in the observed long-term, 40 years or more, trends in tropical cyclone intensity, frequency, and duration. Yes. Yes. Why are you surprised about this? Like, why are you surprised about this? Of course there's going to be low confidence in 40 years or more. We are putting so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We don't know what's going to be happening. The fact that the modelling has been so accurate, as accurate as they have been, is somewhat of a testament to how freaking intelligent the best minds of data scientists and weather and climate, the fact that it's so accurate is huge. Long term, 40 years or more, we don't know what's going to be happening when it comes to the nitty-gritty, the little tiny details, which are trends in tropical cyclones, but we are really good at being able to go, all right, this is what's going to happen when the polar ice caps start to melt. This is what's going to happen when like, okay, so they're not particularly confident in tropical cyclone intensity, but they're pretty fucking good in other areas of the all right. Oh, that guy was great, and he was talking about the models from the European and American weather bureaus, and the Australian, the European, and the American weather bureaus the modelling pretty much lined up pretty quickly, pretty easily. So, and they all were fairly accurate. They're fairly accurate. Okay. Professor Roger Peichel has spent decades researching what the Americans called hurricanes. In 2024, he published an article on global tropical cyclones that drew on a data set maintained by Colorado State University. Its records date from 1980 and uses a metric called accumulated cyclone energy, which combines cyclone frequency and intensity. Pilker notes, over this time period, and according to these metrics, hurricanes have not become more intense. Okay, so let me continue reading this because I've got a feeling a metric called accumulated cyclone energy, which combines cyclone frequency and intensity. Over this time period, according to these metrics, hurricanes have not become more intense. So what are you saying? Higher intensity means they're not more intense? Weird thing to say. I'm not sure what they're saying, so I'm going to no longer comment on that. Cyclones making landfall as far south as Brisbane are rare, but Alfred is not unique. As I mentioned earlier, and there was the Brisbane Times reviewed the history of similar model events and noted the last tropical cyclone to cross the southeast Queensland coast was ex-tropical cyclone Zoe in 1974, which arrived less than 2 months after Cyclone Wanda caused the catastrophic 1974 Brisbane floods. Sure, like as I said, this wasn't unprecedented. But just because it wasn't unprecedented doesn't mean that it's not is not by climate change. So one of the things that this guy completely forgets to mention is since 2019, there's been record-breaking fires, record-breaking floods. Like, I think almost every year since 2019, there's been some sort of weather-related natural disaster. I'm sure Ian can probably fact-check me on this, but I know at least since in the past 6 years, we've had two unprecedented, like, natural disasters in their scope. And every single year, it feels like somewhere on the planet, there is record-breaking natural disasters. Just because we've seen this happen before, doesn't mean that you can discount climate change. Just because this has happened before. In January 1887, gale-force winds and heavy rains inundated the southeast corner, with buildings at Sandgate washed away and 70 people reported dead. Across late January and February in 1893, no less than 5 cyclones crossed the southeast and central Queensland coasts, sparking the Great Flood of Brisbane. There is no evidence that Alfred was caused by climate change. No, but it definitely contributed to it. There's no evidence that burning less coal, oil and gas in Australia would have it averted or made it less ferocious. All right, hang on, let me go back straight up. Okay, do they believe that weaponizing lies for a noble cause is justified? It is not. That are your words, Chris. Those are your words. There is no evidence that burning less coal, oil and gas in Australia would have it averted or made it less ferocious. But what the Climate Council, the Greens and a cavalcade of other politicians and activists intend to suggest as the media feeds on the fear they sow. One of the things that people like this like to say is like, being afraid is a sign of cowardice. Don't be being afraid is cowardice. No, do you know what cowardice is? Cowardice is being afraid and running away. Not facing that fear straight on. I am terrified of COVID. I am personally terrified of COVID. I got COVID in 2021. I am still sick from it. It's scary. It ruins people's lives. It's certainly caused a whole heap of issue with me. It's killed people. But I'm not afraid to go out and get my vaccinations. I'm not afraid to go and wear masks in crowded areas. Because the thing is, the people saying being afraid of COVID means you're a coward. But these people are afraid of doing things that will stop you from getting, or stop them from doing what they used to be able to do. In my opinion, these people are more afraid and more cowardly than the people actually doing something about it. You should be scared of climate change. There is a good possibility that COVID happened because of climate change. And I'm not saying that like flippantly. With climate change, we're going to be seeing more and more diseases. If you watched my incredibly epic smallpox video, which if you haven't, please do. I put so much effort into it. It's one of my favorite videos I've put out. Right at the end, I talk about how climate change could cause, it's not likely, but could cause smallpox to come back. They are finding viruses that are still active that haven't been around for 10, 15,000 years. They're getting like simple animals like worms frozen for 46,000 years, still alive. I'm terrified of climate change. And so you should be, because that's a normal thing to be afraid of. But these people think that being afraid is a bad thing. No, it's how you act on that fear. And this guy is afraid he will lose his job. This guy is afraid he'll lose money. This guy is the coward. This guy is the one that's been having his life ruled by fear. Dickhead. It's all part of a pattern of climate misinformation that washes it. Hang on, let me go back up to, hang on. Do they believe that weapon is justified? It is not. Okay, I'm just keep forgetting him saying something along the lines of lying. Okay, where were we? It's all part of a pattern of climate misinformation that washes around the globe, echoed by governments, international institutions, and the media as all aim to terrify populations into accepting wrenching and expensive change. So this guy has a history of writing out against renewable energy. Renewable energy is so effective right now, at least in the US, probably all over the world, that it coal is like renewable energies is 75% cheaper than coal. Not to mention the amount of damage done to the environment that is required to be cleaned up, done by coal. The illnesses that coal directly causes to the people around, it costs a lot of money. Coal is stupidly expensive. Very, very expensive. So wrenching an expensive change, no. Ian says, I worked for Queensland Health in Nevada State during COVID. I was an essential worker and worked in the COVID supply unit. It was insane. Jeff says there's going to be some ancient disease stored out of the tundra that jacks it all up. Going to have like the Griffiths, Triffids are going to come and wipe us out probably. Hey Leon, how you going? I think I said hello to you. Ian Burns, in the unusually hot summer of 2016, a bacterium that caused anthrax killed more than 2,500 reindeer in Siberia's remote Yamal Peninsula. It was a novel case. In my smallpox video, I talk about Alaska pox, which is a pox virus that was found in Alaska. They said that it might not have been come out due to climate change, but it was definitely there due to human activity. So just, this is some of the stuff that we really don't talk about. Did you know that the Earth's rotation has changed slightly due to climate change? Because of all the melting ice has actually shifted the weight of the planet, and it's actually shifted off its axis. So that's crazy. Perhaps the worst offender is UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. I know that name. Hey, Antonio Guterres, I'm pretty sure is oh no, it's a different guy. Sorry, my bad. An organisation he leads. Swedish public radio recently broadcast an investigation by journalist Ola Stanstig into 4 oft-repeated claims about global warming, that climate change kills 1.7 million children under the age of 5 every year, that women and children are 14 times likelier to die in natural disasters than men, that the number of weather disasters have increased 5-fold since the 1970s, and that families in Samoa are abandoning their homes and moving inland because of climate change. All are grossly misleading. I would doubt that highly. Hang on. Ola Stanstig. Let's see if I can find out who Ola Stanstig, who she is, because I didn't get this far down. Is that how you spell her name? Stanstig. Climate misinformation from the US. Okay, so something from Climate Change Dispatch, which I'm pretty sure is an anti-climate change thing. Climate misinformation, that's LinkedIn. Climate disaster. United Nations overstatements, that I'm not sure about this one. Ground News. Hang on, let's have a look at what Ground News says. Has anyone used Ground News? I keep seeing it advertised. Oh, hey, Purple! It's good good to see you. I also have to apologize for the buffering of my my internet's and just ground news. Thinking climate skepticism even in Sweden. Okay, so that was from right. Okay, so ground news is saying that this bias in distribution from the climate skepticism, they both lean right. All right, so from what I'm seeing is that climate change dispatch media bias fact check. So if you guys don't know about media bias fact check, you need to learn about media bias fact check. I use it all the time. And what that does is it tells you how, like, it works a little bit like ground news in the sense that it tells you roughly where they are on the left-right scale, and also its likelihood of being accurate. And media bias, again, it's taking forever, and I want to apologize for my internet. I'll keep reading. It'll come up in the next 4.5 years. All right. So, all are grossly misleading. The 1.7 million claim appears on the UNICEF website. Okay. UNICEF being fairly well respected around the world for being quite accurate. Sansig notes that this number is 40 times higher than the average total yearly death recorded from natural disasters across the past decade. The figure is drawn from 2 World Health Organization reports, and neither refers to climate change. Both focus on traditional environmental killers such as indoor and outdoor air pollution, fetid water. Dude, air pollution and fetid water are about climate change things. Let's have a look at go away. All right, so climate change dispatch. Let's what I'll do is property. Okay. What? All right. Climate change dispatch. Conspiracy level, moderate. Pseudoscientific level, quackery. Factual reporting, low. Conspiracy pseudoscience. Sources in the conspiracy pseudoscience category may publish unverifiable information that is not always supported by evidence. These sources may be untrustworthy. For credible, verifiable information, therefore fact-checking and further investigation are recommended on a per-article basis when obtaining information from these sources. Media bias fact check is telling us that the climate change dispatch is a conspiracy website. So, Chris Uhlmann is ignoring UNICEF, UN Secretary, the UN, the IPCC, all highly respected scientific things on the world. For a person who writes for a conspiracy theorist website. So, yeah, that's a fascinating conversation. Numerous UN agencies claim that women and children are 14 times likelier than men to die in natural disasters. Sandstig traced that claim to a report written 27 years ago by anthropologist Christina Peterson, who took one piece of anecdotal evidence from one disaster and included it in a 1997 article on the journal Natural Hazards Observer. The author says it was never intended to be for a metric for all disasters. You know what's crazy is I've had people call me out about it, and I've said, no, don't use that. She told Sandstig, would you use data on climate from 25 years ago? I thought people had more sense. I don't know anything about this claim. I'll have to look into it. But people are going to die from climate change. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if something's women and children are more likely to be killed by natural disasters, mainly children are less likely to be able to handle extreme heat and also diseases, and they're just smaller, so they're more likely to be injured more severely in natural disasters such as cyclones. And yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if children are going to be more likely to die in natural disasters. With women, if they're pregnant and so they're vulnerable, again, women were at higher risk of getting severe complications from COVID if they were pregnant. It wouldn't surprise me if they're at least more likely to be affected by climate change than men. However, men are more likely to work in outside and more risky jobs that require them to be outside. So who knows? I'm not going to really comment on that. Maybe Sandstig is correct. I doubt it. The claim that the weather disasters have increased fivefold since the 1970s is a big organisation and broadcast by Guterres himself. The source of this number is the Brussels-based Emergency Events Database. Pioneer of that database, Professor Debarati Guha-Sapir, told Sandstig the rise was primarily due to a massive increase in reports and disasters because of better communications. It would be dangerous misleading to claim there was a fivefold increase in weather-related disasters in the past 50 years. Hang on. So you're saying that better communications is a reason why? I mean, that could be as contributing factors, but there is definitely an increase of weather-related disasters. More and more people are getting killed due to weather-related disasters. I think India had a massive flood a couple of years ago, and something like tens of thousands of people died. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked into these claims because I was very angry, and I probably should have, but I didn't. And it's really, again, Sandstig writes for a conspiracy theory website aimed at debunking climate models, and it was like severe quackery. You could actually argue that climate disasters or natural disasters have not actually substantially increased, but the reporting has been much easier and much better, much quicker. I doubt that. Strongly doubt that. Strongly doubt that. And the reason why I doubt this is because all of these people who are like, oh, but they would have thought, like, I thought of something and the scientists never would have thought of that. No, they would have. They would have. Scientists actually do think of things. They aren't just given information and then they crunch the numbers. They do think, and they of these sorts of stuff. So maybe was one thing that they were going to do, suggest. Like there was going to be one study that suggests one thing. But scientists do. I know. I am one. So they do think of these things, and they do figure it out, and they do this, and they're still putting this stuff out. I very strongly I doubt that these people are I doubt this anyway. Last year, Guterres travelled to Samoa, stood in front of an abandoned home on a beach, and recorded a message posted on Twitter. Those who lived in these houses had to move their homes further inland because of sea level rise and the multiplication of storms, Guterres said. Sandstig interviewed a member of the family that abandoned the house in 2009. They left after the 2009 earthquake and tsunami to climate change. Are you sure about that? Because remember how I said, due to climate change and the melting of the ocean, of the ice caps, the Earth is spinning at a different rate. Earthquakes are actually becoming, there is a connection between earthquakes and climate change. And also, people are on the ocean, like who live on in Samoa and low-lying island nations. They are losing their homes. They absolutely are, due to rising sea level. Purple says, are you going to believe someone who wasted 4 to 8 years in college to dedicate their entire life to studying one specific topic or random guy on the internet? Probably. Yeah, that's, I think I'm going to go the 4 to 8 years in college to dedicate their entire life to studying one specific topic. I'm not going to trust a random guy on the internet. And a reminder, I am a random person on the internet, so don't trust me. Look things up and read it yourself. Here Pelkey takes up the story. Relative sea level rise has accelerated in Samoa, but that has nothing to do with climate change, but rather increased earthquake, which might actually have links to climate change. Yeah. So I think that's great. It's just like self-aware wolf right there. One day the truth will out, leaving those who traded in fear with nothing left but the ruins of their credibility among the ashes of their cause. All right, give me 2.5 seconds because I had to move away from this one. Where was it? Not that one. Was it this one? There we go. Properties. All right. Okay, so here we are talking about media that that makes a climate of fear. Courier Mail, 4th of March. R.I.P. my R.I.P. my sort of algorithm. Southeast Queensland residents to brace for power loss, basically. What will Cyclone Alfred, Ghost Town, Brisbane photo gallery. Cyclone Alfred, bottled water prices increase. This is all from the Courier Mail. This is why I had the Courier Mail on the thumbnail. Okay, and the next one. And then take 4.5 years for it to load because my internet sucks. Go next. Oh, it's thinking. No, there's a reason why Google is not my, Chrome is not my Come on. Go next. Okay, I can't show you that. Oh, it's thinking. Yeah, so what I was saying, is that you can't really see too much because I'm pretty sure they've removed a lot of the scary headlines. Serious risk of major flooding and storm surges as Cyclone Alfred, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they were like, I saw this woman on Reddit who put out like a TikTok who was like, all right, guys, this is what you do. I'm from the far north Queensland. This is what you do. This is what you're not getting told, but this is the things that you need to do. Hey, TVT Tube Me, how you going? I am alive and still kicking. I did tear a calf muscle last year. I didn't kick after that. I did scream because it was very painful. Okay, here, Courier Mail, destructive winds likely to increase as tropical cyclone, blah, blah, blah. What you can do to prepare for Cyclone Alfred. So, yeah, so I'm trying to point them out because there were a lot of Courier Mail. Headlines that were all about the fear mongering, and it was pretty scary. And the lady on the TikTok, who was, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the things she said is, do not listen to Channel 9, Channel 7, anything like that. Listen to the Bureau of Meteorology, ABC. They're the ones that are going to give you the information that you need. Because what's going to happen is, though they want the clickbaits, they want everything traumatized. Oh my God, blah blah blah. Like when the Bureau of Meteorology said, look, there's a small possibility. We're not ruling it out, but there is a tiny possibility there could be a Category 3 hit as a Category 3, and they were saying that less than a day. Like 10 hours ish, I think. That's my guess. I have no idea. But it was not very long, and it was mentioned offhand by the Bureau of Meteorology. And the Courier Mail just took that and ran with it. So here's the problem that I have with the whole with Chris Uhlmann. Is one, that he's wrong. He's just wrong. To break it to you, he's wrong. Climate change is a thing. We need to change. We need to go to renewable energy, and we needed to do it 45 years ago or earlier. Climate change will be not just environmentally destructive, because he clearly doesn't give a shit about the environment or people. He cares about his bottom line. Insurance companies are trying to start policies that don't include, well, they're not starting it, but insurance companies are taking into account climate change as part of their financing and all that sort of stuff. You know for a fact that climate change is a thing. When people who don't, like companies that really reason not to care about climate change are going, let's care about climate change. Hello, ExxonMobil. I hope everyone who is your CEO from now and forever has an unpleasant time in the afterlife. I don't want to say what I want to say because I don't want to be taken off the internet. Like, these people know and accept and understand that climate change is a thing. Chris Uhlmann is an idiot. Absolute wombat, as I mentioned in the description. So yeah, Murdoch Media, who fearmongers about the woke left. So anyone left of certain Austrians in the 1930s. Anyone left of certain Austrian people who were in power in the 1930s. Anyone left of them is the woke left, as far as Murdoch Media is. The amount of fear and lying about the LGBT community, climate change, COVID, even just progressive, the loony left. And they lie and lie and lie. And pointing out their hypocrisy does absolutely nothing, because they don't give a crap about being hypocrites. As long as they can stay in power, as long as they can stay wealthy, they don't give a crap. But they'll happily point out the hypocrisy for people that they disagree with, but, whatever. Purple says, it's not the climate change. It's all because of the epidemic of trans kids. Yeah, I know. So what are we going to do about this? Well, it's not a lot we can do. There are more important things than to yell about a stupid article by a man who used to be an Australian politician. But sometimes it's nice just to go rah at someone, because that's the best we can do. Just understand that I saw on YouTube about a week or so ago, about what beautiful things that are going on, like renewables are getting more and more useful, because, as I said, coal is expensive compared to renewable energy, like really, really expensive. And it's not, and I said, it's not just the removal, it's not just the environmental rehabilitation and stuff like that. It's just expensive to take out of the ground. So yeah, that's really good. Nuclear power is becoming more and more useful and safe as well. So that's a huge thing. So nuclear power, ask somebody 40 years ago what they thought of nuclear power, and they probably quite rightfully went, nah, it's not okay. But nowadays, we can the nuclear power plants modular. They don't use nearly as much nuclear weight. They don't use as much, produce nearly as much nuclear. Modern nuclear power plants actually use nuclear waste from previous generation nuclear power. So that's plants. So that's pretty cool as well. And they don't melt down either, due to their cooling system. So people like Chris Uhlmann are going to end up being well and truly in the past. And he's wrong. He will always be wrong. And I just wanted to combat, but that her apology letter will come probably with another stream a bit later, because yeah, that went down like a lead balloon. All right, I'm probably going to sign off because it is 11:30-ish over here. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much with the buffering. And again, I apologize for my crappy internet. As I said, Alfred has made my internet a lot slower than it used to be. Thank you for joining in, all of the people in the chat. So Purple, TVT Tube Me, Ian, Gaius, Jasser, I saw you were in there, Leon, Jeff, think that's everybody. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening, night, or whatever. And don't forget, don't give yourself the raw prawn.